Okay, thank you, Drew. Good evening and welcome to the February 19th, 2019 Town of Charlton Board of Selectmen's meeting. Please stand for the pledge. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Okay. On tonight's agenda, we have minutes of special meeting for October 15th, 2018, minutes of special meeting for December 11th, 2018, and that's to reconsider a motion to accept as is. Minutes of special meeting January 15th, 2019 at 5 p.m. Minutes of regular meeting January 15th, 2019. Minutes of special meeting February 5th, 2019. Community relations announcements in open forum. We have Chief Knopp, and he's going to present Captain Dennis Carlson, the new fire prevention officer. And on open forum, I believe there's quite a few people here that want to speak at open forum. We have a lot of scheduled appointments, so we'll allow people to speak until it starts to impact the rest of the agenda, and then we're going to move it to the back of the agenda after the rest of our scheduled appointments. Appointments and resignation, we have the appointment of the DPW superintendent, appointments for Old Home Day Committee, appointment for Technology Committee. Scheduled appointments, we have John LaFleche from Bay Path Vocational Technical High School. We have the special act on solar. We have the fiscal year 2020 budget. At 7 p.m. we have the Board of Health vaping information / littering in town. At the 7:15 appointment with Mr. Barry Grondin has been canceled. He's not coming. Under new business, we have special liquor license request, the Mary Martha Guild. We have Charlton Orchard's definitive subdivision plan application, 44 Old Worcester Road, for comments from the Board of Selectmen to the Planning Board. Masonic Home definitive subdivision plan application for Burlingame Road. Request to dispose of old IT assets, 2018 Board of Selectmen Annual Report. Under old business, request for deficit spending in the snow emergency account. Tennessee Gas Pipeline Company, LLC, 2019 mowing program. The Hilka Settlement Agreement. Petition by Gerard Russell to Public Records Division appealing the response of the Town of Charlton to a request for public records. Committee reports. Marijuana Advisory Committee update. Solar Moratorium Review Committee. The Mass Municipal Association Annual Conference and Trade Show. Under BOS Policy Review, appointments by the Board of Selectmen, correspondence policy, adoption and amendment of policies, citizens relations / petitions, transparency and citing of marijuana facilities in Charlton. We're not going to have the student select person report this evening. The student select person is unavailable. And other business unknown at the time of posting. And our next meeting announcement is regular Board of Selectmen's meeting, February 26, 2019, 6:30 p.m. in the Selectmen's meeting room. Special Selectmen's meeting, March 20th, 2019, 6:30 p.m. at the Charlton Middle School Library. And with that, do we have a motion on the minutes of the special meeting for October 15th, 2018?
Through the chair,
Ms. Noble.
I make a motion that we accept the minutes of the special meeting on October 15th.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Is there any discussion? Hearing none, seeing none. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Okay. Do we have a motion on the minutes of special meeting December 11th, 2018?
Through the chair,
Ms. Noble.
I'd like to make a motion that we accept the minutes of the special meeting December 11th, 2018, or reconsider the motion to accept as is.
Do I have a second?
I'll second it.
Okay. We have a motion and a second. Is there any discussion? Hearing none, seeing none. All in favor?
Aye.
Abstain.
Minutes of special meeting, January 15th. Do we have a motion?
I don't believe I was at that meeting. No, I was there. Through the chair,
Ms. Noble?
I make a motion that we accept those minutes, please, from January 15th, 2019.
I'll second.
Okay.
That was
We've-
just the pizza party.
We have a motion and a second. Is there any discussion? Hearing none, seeing none. All in favor?
Chair, just a comment, that was a pizza party, not a meeting,
Yes, it was the pizza party.
Right.
But we have to have a quorum.
but abstain.
Okay. All right. Minutes of the regular meeting from January 15th, the regular meeting, January 15th, 2019.
Through the chair,
Ms. Noble?
I'd like to make a motion that we accept the minutes of the regular meeting from January 15th, 2019.
Okay. Do we have a second?
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Any discussion? Hearing none, seeing none. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Okay. And the minutes of special meeting, February 5th.
I wasn't there.
Mr. Chair, I make a motion that we accept the minutes from the special meeting on February 5th.
Okay. And I believe that that was the, well, I'll wait. I'll second that because there was only two of us there, so. But just for everybody's edification, that was on the open meeting law presentation that was put on here at 6 PM by Koppelman and Page. So we have a motion and a second. Any discussion? Hearing none. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Abstain.
Okay.
Abstain.
2 abstentions. Okay. Chief Knopf?
No, maybe they had an emergency.
Okay, we will hold that
Okay.
until next meeting.
Do you want to read the announcements?
Is there anybody here for open forum?
You don't want to read the announcements?
Michelle?
Hi. This will be quick. Michelle Lilly, I live at 50 Smith Road. I just appreciate that the Board of Health is going to bring up the littering problem tonight. It has been kind of an ongoing issue. Last year, for Earth Day, the town collected over 2 tons of garbage from our roads, and it was the most ever collected. So there was great citizen participation, and we had some great events on the common, and the kids really had a blast. And we do appreciate all the vendors that came out to make it really kind of a fun, family-oriented day. But it's kind of an embarrassment that, it was 2 tons of garbage. So I think, just looking to see if anybody, I think the town, we need to come up with maybe some more creative ideas to try to nip this in the bud, because people are dumping kind of bigger items like the toilet on Stafford Street and TVs, and just, it just makes the town kind of look dumpy, So I just wanted to bring up Earth Day is April 27th, and you'll be hearing more about that. Erin Anderson at the middle school does a tremendous job with the students. And if anybody's interested, it really is a phenomenal group. I joined it last year, and they're really wonderful people, easy to work with, and, the more the merrier. Okay? Thank you.
Just to add to that, Michelle, we use almost 600 trash litter bags every time.
Yeah. Thanks.
Quite a bit. Jerry?
I just have a few questions, Mr. Chairman, regarding an op-ed that you wrote for the Telegram and Gazette
Yes.
this past Saturday. And in the op-ed, you state the
So,
board...
Jerry, I'd just like to say I'm not going to answer any questions on the op-ed, okay?
Really?
Because it deals with VGG, and that's not on our agenda tonight, okay?
This is open forum, isn't it?
It's open forum, but we still have to, we have litigation going on with VGG, and I'm not going to answer any questions.
Okay, well, that makes it easy for you. I just have one thing to say. If I'm a member of the fire department, the police department, any board or commission or department, or a volunteer for the town of Charlton, I am chilled by your decision not to give the planning board the opportunity to defend themselves in court. That is despicable. Thank you.
Thank you, Jerry, for your comments. Is there anybody else? Noreen?
Hi, good evening.
Good evening.
Noreen Smith on Dresser Hill Road. And I would like to echo concerns that Jerry just shared about the lack of legal representation offered. And I also, on a second note, would like to suggest that the town has a very engaged citizenry and people who are, perhaps like me, paying a deeper level of attention to the goings-on in town government and trying to get a better understanding and looking for more transparency in how things are done. There are many towns around the state that have offered something called a Citizens Leadership Academy. And the town of Auburn is a nearby town that last year offered it for the first time, and it's an 11-week program for citizens to learn more about government and to learn more about how decisions are made, have an opportunity to do a little deeper dig into the finances, into the bylaws and the practices of boards and commissions. And I would like to ask that the board please direct the town administrator to explore what that type of program might involve for the town of Charlton, what the benefits might be, and how people could get another way to participate and learn about town government. Certainly the timing in advance of elections, in advance of people taking out papers to run for offices would be great. And I think that it would benefit all of us to have other venues in which we could have conversations that are productive about how the town is managed and operating.
Okay. Thank you, Noreen.
Thank you.
Is there anybody else for open forum? Patsy?
Last week, I requested legal counsel to deal with a couple of OML complaints that we had, and we were turned down by our town council because, according to him, he was told to investigate our actions. I'm kind of sad to hear that, but I am requesting from the Board of Selectmen the use of an attorney to help us with our OML complaints, only because we're an elected board, we all have jobs, and it kind of seems above our pay grade to deal with those in the correct manner.
So, I don't know, and I'm going to refer to the town administrator how to handle this. Is this an open forum?
It's not.
Okay.
It's a request for counsel and should be on the agenda.
So,
I would be glad to work with her.
all
But-
right, and just a little bit of background on this. I believe you received a letter from Mr. Cosgrove, and I believe the letter from Mr. Cosgrove stated that the first portion of an open meeting law complaint is handled by the board, making their statement back to the complainant as to why they think it's not an open meeting law complaint. So that portion of it, I believe, the planning board understands why they believe it's not an open meeting law complaint. I would suggest that the planning board probably write that out. You have staff, okay, as to why you believe it's not an open meeting law complaint, and respond to both people. And then we will move, you can work with the town administrator after that, but I believe that that's the way that has to be handled, and that's the way all the other boards and commissions have handled it that have had problems, Patsy.
So we do have it on our agenda to discuss in
Okay.
open meeting why we don't believe that it's a violation.
Okay, and,
We worry about counsel.
yeah, it's this, I think Jim's letter to the board, and to you and the board, explained, the process.
Well, he really explained that he cannot assist us because he's been asked to look into our activities. So I was wondering if we could have another.
Well, this, either here or there, I don't believe that was in the letter. that
It was, I will give it to you, the email.
Okay, because I'm not sure, but anyway, okay,
Thank you.
thank you.
So, Mr. Chair, so could we put that on the agenda for next week so we can get the answers as to whether or not that was in the letter, what the implications were from Attorney Cosgrove?
Sure. Absolutely. Okay, anybody else for open forum?
Me?
Go ahead, Karen.
I'm coming down here, obviously, so I can take off my selectman's hat and share my personal opinion with all of you and the residents.
Mhm.
Can you hear me okay?
Yeah.
This is not easy for me to do. I just want you to know that. The following is my personal opinion. Be assured I would have preferred to avoid this route of action altogether. However, my attempts to follow normal protocols to address issues in a transparent and collaborative manner, such as through agenda items and joint meetings, have either been denied or ignored. Everyone is entitled to their opinions. However, it's imperative that those in leadership and managerial positions put their personal beliefs aside and be willing to examine facts. They must represent the town and all constituents to the best of their ability, understand the consequences of their actions or lack thereof, and respect rather than impede the democratic process. These actions should be lawful and ethical, thus complying with the open meeting law, thereby promoting openness and transparency in government, and ensuring that every resident understands the reasoning behind government policy decisions. Officials should never attempt to intimidate, label, dismiss, or undertake a campaign to discredit those with opposing opinions. When faced with urgent, time-sensitive issues, their actions should be swift, transparent, and collaborative. Doing so quells rumors, instills trust, builds camaraderie, and keeps messaging succinct. The Selectmen Handbook states that selectmen, quote, are looked to by citizens and local government alike for leadership and integrity, particularly in difficult times. To say our town is going through a difficult time is an understatement. To say I am disappointed, perplexed, and deeply disturbed by how a handful of officials have handled the VGG project from the beginning is an understatement. While I have a laundry list of concerns, my most recent is the denial to grant immediate access to legal counsel to the planning board. The denial of multiple requests made by me and the planning board to hold joint meetings to discuss the appeal of denial of the VGG site plan, the negotiation of the appeal without officially consulting with the planning board, who are the named defendants, or the entire Board of Select Board. In my 25 years of experience working on various boards and commissions, I can honestly say I have never witnessed such antics as I have since being elected in May 2018. Regardless of where residents stand on this issue, all should be very concerned. To the extent to which a few town leaders have pushed for the VGG project to come to fruition is quite frankly alarming. Any ordinary, reasonable person who took the time to review what has transpired from the onset of the proposed VGG project would have to conclude something is amiss. Pieces of the puzzle, however, are missing and inaccessible to the average person, including me. The public deserves a full and transparent accounting of what their leaders have done on their behalf and why, and whether the laws governing that work have been broken in letter as well as in spirit. The people of this town deserve answers. And again, I cannot tell you how embarrassed and how saddened I am to have to come off from down there and be down here. You know, I've been asking questions behind the scene. I am getting stonewalled, in my opinion, and I am a peer. I don't understand it, and it really, really bothers me.
Thank you for your comments, Karen. Anybody else for open forum? Okay, moving on. Appointments and resignation. Appointment for the DPW superintendent. Ms. Cradle.
Yes, sir. Attached, please find a job description for the DPW superintendent that has been developed in collaboration with the HR director, personnel board, and highway superintendent. The need for a revised job description is due to other duties being added, such as tree removal and pruning, maintenance of recreation fields, and parks and trails. He will be taking over the mowing contract and winter maintenance for the town facilities. These additional duties were not previously carried out by the Highway Department, thus a new designation of Department of Public Works is being utilized to encompass the varied roles and responsibilities added to the department, and therefore the job description. The Personnel Board met February 4th, 2019, and they support the job description and title change. Since new roles and responsibilities have been added, we are recommending a pay increase upon approval of the new job description and title. As you are aware, Charlton is a large town in area, and these duties will add a substantial amount of additional responsibility and work for the superintendent. We are recommending an annual salary increase for the position from $91,332.80 to $101,332.80.
And what actions do we have to take?
I would be looking for the board to approve the job description and change of title and salary increase.
Through the chair,
Ms. Noble?
where will the funds be coming from for the salary increase?
We will be taking it from contract obligations, or making an adjustment if we need to at the town meeting, but there is enough for that.
Will that leave a deficiency anywhere
No,
else?
ma'am.
Through the chair, just a quick question.
Yes, Karen.
So regarding the added responsibilities such as tree removal, pruning, maintenance of the recreation fields, park and trails, who's doing that now? Is he
well,
in
we're-
charge of some of that right now?
We are doing a bit of a shift with responsibilities. As you know, the conservation agent has been also acting as the recreation staff. He is asked to have that hat removed from him. He is now taking on more duties around stormwater. So this board has approved Sue Gelb to act as their staff person for taking minutes. But the duties that Todd had been doing as far as overseeing the mowing contract and working with recreation, that would now be under the new DPW. So that's there. Also, we had the tree warden, the contract was under him. He has asked for that to be removed, so it will go to the highway, the DPW, and he will do the procurement for it and oversee that contract, which is about $70,000. We also had a big split between, Jerry was still trying to oversee, and Kurt was also overseeing the contract for snow and ice on our outside contract. And Jerry was seeing a portion of that, and Todd was seeing a portion of that, so we're trying to bring it all under one person, so that's all coordinated. We're also going to be adding, as you know, we have a grant for outdoor gym, where we've been working with Overlook to develop some trails and put in, so walking trails as well as some exercise equipment outside. So we have no one that's manning or paying attention to any parks or rec. Todd was doing some of that with the park across the street, so that also would go under highway. So we have areas that just have not been being paid attention to, or there's other staff members that their duties are shifting.
Mr. Chair.
David?
So my one question is related to the tree warden. So if that's going to fall under the highway superintendent, are we actually just eliminating the position of tree warden? And if we're not, why do we need them anymore?
No.
All the procurements under the new DPW.
The tree warden will not be doing the procurement. He'll identify what needs to be done, but Jerry will run the contract of who's gonna do it and how much they're gonna get paid. So the tree warden is still gonna do the technical portion of it, of which trees need to be, either taken down or limbed, or he'll work with the utilities to decide, which ones, which stretch of road is gonna be trimmed out.
And he has been doing a great job, so we're certainly wanting him to continue. And this also makes sense for him, because he's not a full-time staff person, he's an elected.
And through the chair,
Mm-hmm.
this is really kind of a rebranding though, because this is not a true DPW, a true DPW, right? Because I know, I looked at the government study when we did the white paper.
Mhm.
That was only 2 years ago, and at that time, the recommendation was, it was actually, we had met with, the Cemetery Commission, Conservation Committee, and Jerry, and they didn't want to move forward at that time
No.
with anything. But in the future, we might want to go down that path and to save money and labor, et cetera.
Right, this is more to to move things to Jerry that other people in town hall can't do right now. We're not trying to usurp any other boards,
Right.
responsibilities.
So the cemetery would not be a part of this, neither would the water and sewer. So we're not calling it or recommending a Department of Public Works Director. We are recommending a Department of Public Works Superintendent. So it's kind of one step down. It doesn't encompass everything.
Mr. Chair.
David?
I still think, to me, it's a natural progression anyway, with the way the town is growing and everything we're doing with the police department, the growth in the fire department. If we have, 3 essential services, police, fire, highways, the other one.
They're all
Wherever we're
public safety.
And it fits in with everything else we're doing and the way the town is growing to begin moving in that direction.
So you need us to make a motion on this?
Yes, sir. If you'll approve it.
Do I have a motion?
So moved.
Do I have a second?
Second.
Any discussion? Hearing none, seeing none, all in favor?
Aye.
Okay.
Thank you. And Jerry's in the back. Congratulations, Jerry, for more work.
No, Jerry, thank you
Thank you.
for what you do.
I will also tell you that I did speak with the Highway Union attorney, so I'll be having a conversation with them if there's anything we need to do with them, as in making the shift. I've also worked with town council about changing the name from Highway Department to Department of DPW, so we'll be bringing forward something at the Maytown meeting to make those changes also.
Okay,
Thank you.
excellent.
And one of the things I didn't mention, which he is already doing, that we appreciate, he oversees the streetlights too. So it's another component of something he stepped in. As you know, many of the department heads have worn the same hat, more than one hat. If it's okay, Mr. Chair, for 6:45, we do have Bay Path. Could we go to that, and then I can finish the,
Sure.
finish the
Absolutely.
appointments?
If nobody on the board has any issues? No, fine. Mr. LaFlesh?
Good evening.
Good evening.
Thank you for having us here. With me is Dean Yacobucci, the business manager of the district. A couple of weeks ago, I had the good fortune of meeting with Mrs. Craver to talk about a number of issues that are going on that jointly impact us. Annually, of course, is our budget, and we'll spend a few minutes with the budget. But another item that came up was solar, development of a solar field up at Bay Path's property. And of course, we were well aware that there's also a solar moratorium, as well as a committee that's dealing with that. So from a historical point of view, let me give you just briefly, I know we're busy night tonight, but 2 years ago, the school looked at the possibility of doing some solar development up there, primarily because you may have heard, or if not, our playing fields are really getting near the end of their useful life without some major renovation. And I'm not necessarily referring to going to a turf, artificial turf, just some real major renovation of the fields themselves. We did not do that during the building project several years ago because we had promised all of the communities that we were going to keep the project on time and on budget, and we were successful in that. And we were very appreciative of the support the citizens gave us to do that, and if you've had a chance to see the school, it's come out beautifully. The solar initiative that we looked at was an effort to develop a source of funding so that we can take care of all of our fields without going to our 10 towns asking for more money. We put out an RFP around that time 2 years ago. We received several offers, several proposals. In looking at the whole project, we discovered that back in the 80s, the town of Southbridge had sued Bay Path when they attempted to lease some land to a cable operator for putting up a tower at the school. It was, some part of a business plan for Pegasus at that time. When that went to court, the judge at the time said that Bay Path could only do leases or work allowed under Chapter 70 of the Mass General Laws that explicitly said to do that. I gave you a copy this evening of the text of a proposed special legislation. In order to even consider going ahead with a solar project, we need to get the law amended that says, basically, Bay Path, you can do a solar installation. So that's part one. And basically, what this special legislation would do, it would authorize us to do a solar project, but it would also authorize the accounting such that those funds would stay with the school outside of the general fund, and then could be used for items like maintaining capital, maintaining fields, those kinds of things, without coming back to the towns for some money. In the meantime, speaking with the town administrator, she was kind enough to put us in touch with Laurie Degnan and Mrs. Spiewak, who are integral in that solar moratorium committee, who I think are developing a bylaw that is going to be before the town meeting. And we learned a lot about what the town's concerns are, what seems to be, look like will be put in that bylaw for adoption. And my message to all of you and to the town is that Bay Path has always been a good neighbor. And if, in fact, this special legislation were to pass and we were going to try and move forward with a solar project, we're going to bend over backwards to make sure that we would comply to anything that the town of Charlton deemed necessary, both from an aesthetic point of view, a decommissioning point of view, so that in 25 years, when it's time to take the panels down, they're dealt with in a professional, appropriate manner, making sure that the finances of the project are such that there's money there in case that company reneged on its responsibilities. And we would also then ask the committee, although it probably will have served its purpose, but speaking with the two folks we spoke with, it was clear that they've done a tremendous amount of research on this, and we can benefit by having them come in and collaborate while we're looking for, when we're looking for a proposal. So that's the first topic for tonight. I don't know if there are questions or concerns, but that's where we stand at this point.
David?
So just a comment. So as a committee, all we can do is make recommendations, which we've done. That's one part for me. As a selectman and as a resident, more as a resident, or maybe as a selectman, yes, I would hope that Bay Path would want to work within whatever guidelines planning and everyone else puts into place based upon our committee's recommendations. But have you been to Shepherd Hill recently?
The field next to the entryway?
Yep.
Is that what you're referring to?
Yep.
Yes, and our,
As a resident and a selectman, besides all the other eyesores in town, to me, that was a slap in the face to everybody who ever pays taxes to Shepherd Hill and anyone who lives near there. And that's what we're trying to avoid in Charlton. It's a disgrace. And whatever happens at Bay Path, and I'm not saying you guys shouldn't, I'm just saying, if it does happen, please do not do what they did.
we will not, even without the guidance of the bylaw that I assume may be passed, 2 years ago when the proposal came forth, it would not have been seen from the road, but certainly we'd be much more sensitive to that and make sure that that doesn't happen. Absolutely. There are ways to handle that so it doesn't, as you know, we have 100 acres on the other side of the school, so there's enough setback and so forth. And also, you know, we would be looking at a potential possible field down there at some point in the future. So yes, we would, I certainly don't know who owns that piece of land that you're referring to, but it does stick out when you go to Shepherd Hill. We go there sometimes for town meetings and so forth, and we were surprised to see it ourselves. So
This isn't gonna be like, when you go behind the school, you have those fields right there.
yes,
It's an amazing view.
yeah, no, that's not going on that side at all. It would be on the other side of the road, you know, where the Tenneco gas line goes. So it'd be in there somewhere, but regardless of exactly where, and again, we would have, because the RFP is so old now, we would have to go through that again. And as we discussed with our meeting with Ms. Degnan and Mrs. Spiewak, All of the incentives have changed, so I'm sure that the proposal from 2 years ago is going to be completely different. But you have my word, and the word of all of us up at the Bay Path School Committee, that we will not do something that is displeasing visually or otherwise to the community, because the community's been very supportive of us.
So my last comment, that would be, as a member of that committee, a selectman, and a resident, all three hats, thank you, and I appreciate the fact that you actually took such concern regarding this, because a lot of other solar installations coming into town, quite frankly, could care less. And the fact that you're going out of your way to work with the committee, work with the different town boards to ensure that this is done properly, I think is greatly appreciated.
Well, thank you. And, you know, Dean and I have worked in local government for over 30 years each, and we view Charlton as almost like a second home to us. And we would not want to do to the town something that we wouldn't want done to us. So, thank you.
Just a
yes.
quick question, John. Do you need us to write a letter to the legislature about this, or what do you need from us?
Well, it was more of an informational situation, but if the selectmen felt they could support it, I'm waiting to find out who and I think it's been appointed, and I gotta get in touch with Senator Goby again, find out who the chairs of the committee are and so forth, and I will send that down, but that would be most helpful, because obviously, I would think that the legislature and our representatives that we share commonly would say, what does the Board of Selectmen of Charlton think of this?
So do I have a motion from the board while we're still thinking about this?
Funny, of all people. But I will make the motion, and for several reasons. You know, in a lot of instances, especially as you're aware on the committee and all the work Lori's done, the potential loopholes, irregardless, the fact that this can offset some burden from the schools, without question, is a financial benefit to the town of Charlton, without question, and every other community involved. And the fact that they're so willing to work with the communities, you know. And again, you can't stop, but you can at least make sure these are done right. And with their concerns and their efforts, I would make that motion.
So your motion would be?
To craft a letter to Senator Goby expressing the support of the Board of Selectmen of the town of Charlton for Bay Path special legislation request.
And Representative Durant
And Frost, too.
and Frost.
And whomever the committee members are, committee chairs are.
Committee.
Yeah. Do I have a
Yes.
second?
I'll second it.
We have a motion, a second. Any discussion? Hearing none, seeing none. All in favor?
Aye.
Okay. Sorry to
Thank you.
interrupt you,
Yeah,
John.
that's fine, thank you very much, and one last point we didn't talk about, and I know there's a state of flux surrounding taxation and pilots. I gave Robin my word as well, that when we craft the next RFP, we'll hopefully by that time have some clarity around that issue, and whatever Robin, as a representative of the town, tells me is the best way to ensure that there are revenues going directly to the town, in addition to the money that we would get, you know, that we're discussing here. We will put that language in an RFP, and we will not waver from it, and we will not make an award unless we're sure that there's no end of round available. So I want you to know that.
Thank you very much.
And that's appreciated. But you and
That's
Bay
Mrs.
Path
Dignan.
have always been very good neighbors to Charlton.
Thank you. So, the other part of our mission this evening, we thought we'd kill two birds with one stone, is talk a little bit about the budget. We did send down the line item budget, and if you've had a chance to look at it, the assessment for the town of Charlton is growing dramatically next year. So, instead of me ruining my good reputation, I thought I'd bring Dean down to talk a little
The
bit.
good news,
Yeah, that's assuming you had a good reputation.
To talk a little bit and show you what's happened and why we're at where we're at. Dean?
Well, I've provided to you the same information that we give to you every year, and as you know, this presentation can take, you know, upwards of 45 minutes, and I know you don't have that time this evening, and you have a lot of folks sitting behind us that, you know, are eager as well. So I was just gonna point out some highlights that are in the presentation that I gave you, and then I'll certainly answer any questions. So starting on page 3, on the slide that says impact on Bay Path. As you know, the governor released his budget. The budget will probably be altered as it moves through the legislature. But based on the governor's budget right now, our Chapter 70 appears to be increasing $476,588. Our minimum contributions from our collective 10 towns is increasing $359,520, making our required net school spending $19,493,912, or an increase of $836.
$836,000.
Yes, $836,108. Moving to page 4, some of the information, and this is good news, some of the information on this sheet is outdated and overstated. We opened bus bids last week, and we're very pleased to say, because of a very competitive environment, and in fact, for the first time in as many years as Bay Path has bid busing, there was competition between 3 firms. And that competition led us to getting a 0% increase in busing next year, and then a 1% increase in each of the following years, which we've never seen. When we built this budget, based on historical increases in the past during a bid year, we had estimated the cost of busing to go up 15%. As I said, it's gonna be 0%, which is going to be leading us to be recommending to our school committee at their March meeting that the transportation portion of our budget be decreased by $200,000. Charlton's share of that will be in excess of somewhere between $30,000 and $35,000 as a reduction. So we're happy about that. So on this top bullet where it says the total budget for assessments is $22,985,16, that will be decreasing by $200,000, which means that our budget increase in fiscal year 20 will be a 2.85% increase versus the 3.75 that we originally had. And again, we're pretty pleased with that, to be running a major school system with the expenses we have, to be keeping the increase less than 3%. Moving on to page 6, you can kind of see how our budget shakes out. Our operational budget is $19,698,145, and you can see what funds that. We're expected to receive $11,003,914 in Chapter 70 funding. We do receive a school choice assessment, which comes directly off of our Chapter 70 funding. And this year, or in fiscal year 20, that will be $181,165. Our collective assessments for minimum contribution, which is calculated by the Commonwealth, is $8,489,998. We are requesting again for a small amount of funds above the minimum contribution. If you recall, this year we asked and received $200,000, again collectively from our 10 towns. Next year we're requesting $69,000, so we've reduced that $131,000. We are continuing to fund our OPEB trust with a transfer from our excess and deficiency, which is the same as the town's free cash, and we're doing that at the same level that we have for the past several years, at $50,000. And we're also requesting that the school committee appropriate $266,398 from E&D to reduce the assessments that we'd be making to our member community. And
Just a quick note, you may be wondering, why does Bay Path pay a school choice assessment? If a student from one of our 10 towns decides to choice into, for example, Tantascwa, and ends up in the vocational program at Tantascwa, we pay the choice to Tantascwa, not Dudley Charlton, for example. So that's what happens there.
Good point. Below that, you see the transportation budget, and as I stated, we will be recommending on March 4th that the school committee reduce that by $200,000. Our debt service for the addition renovation project in fiscal year 20 will be $1,568,903. We continue to pay a sewer betterment capital assessment to the town of Charlton of $30,750, and we'll be paying that until 2023, I believe. And our total budget for assessments will be reduced by $200,000, and that will be $22,785,016.
And then just one more quick point on the transportation. 3 or 4 months ago, 3 months maybe, we did reduce the current year's assessment to each of our towns. We sent you a letter. That was based on the fact that the legislature was able to get more busing reimbursement than what was found in the governor's budget. Should that happen again this year? So right now, we're looking at getting 1.1 million. If that number goes up, we will do the same thing again next year. We'll return any excess Chapter 71 money to the towns.
Mr. Chair. So a quick question, on transportation and school choice. If someone decides to take advantage of school choice and send their child to Tantascwa, who pays for the transportation?
Well, actually, Tantascwa was not required to provide transportation. It's up to the parent to get them there.
So they would have to pay for the transportation?
Right.
Well, the parent would have to either drive them there.
Or pay somebody.
Sometimes they'll, I'm not saying Tantascwa, a school district will say, well, if you get your son or daughter to a bus pickup in our town, we'll let them take that bus. But nobody has to pay for transportation. It's the charter school where there's a transportation requirement.
Okay, because for some reason, I was under the impression previously, Norfolk Aggie.
That is,
I knew
okay,
where you were
That's
going.
different,
that
that's
is not
different.
school choice.
Right.
That's out-of-district tuition, and because it's an agricultural school, students have a right to go there, and it is the town's responsibility to pay for that transportation.
Right.
So that scenario, I think we still should work with our legislators. If you decide to go to medical school beyond college, I shouldn't be paying for it. When you decide that our schools aren't good enough for you and don't offer your program of study, when I think that we happen to offer among the best schools in the state, including Bay Path, you choose something else, that's fine, you should have that right. But you should also have the right to pay for your kid to go to that school instead of us paying $60,000 a year for that, which is separate from this, but, okay. Just wanted to make sure that we weren't paying for the school
No,
tuition.
you're not paying school choice.
So I'm gonna now ask you to turn to page 16, and I know I'm jumping around a little bit, but as Mr. LaFleche had started initially saying that Charlton is seeing a very large assessment increase to Bay Path. This is a breakdown of your assessment, and you can see that the total assessment, and first of all, let me emphasize that we, recognize that this will be going down by that savings that we have in transportation, which we believe will be somewhere near $35,000. But just focusing on this number, Charlton's assessment went up by $257,000. So what's driving that? Well, as you can see, and I highlighted it, Charlton's minimum contribution, which again is a state calculation, increased by $232,835. And we'll discuss that in a minute. But that is not any spending that, or any result that Bay Path has control over. Your assessment above minimum in fiscal year 2020 that we're requesting is $12,303, which is actually a decrease of $20,740. Transportation assessment was increasing $47,000, but we do believe that will be coming down to somewhere in the area of $10,000 to $17,000. Debt service is actually a decrease of $1,760. Capital improvement was an increase of $66, and then all those combined is an increased assessment of $257,980. And the point that I wanted to really hammer home with this one particular slide is, with the exception of the assessment above minimum, which is $12,303, this is required spending. The town is required to fund this. Now, what happened with the minimum contribution? Because that is what's really driving the increase in your assessment. I'm gonna have you back up now to page 14. The state calculates a foundation budget for all school districts. And then as part of that foundation budget, they determine what the required contribution is, and it all ties into expenses and enrollment. And let's look at what happened in Charlton when we look at this current fiscal year and next year. First of all, this year, the town of Charlton is paying for 3 students who are attending an agricultural school. You have 1,987 students attending the Dudley Charlton or that Dudley Charlton is responsible for financially, and 190 students coming to Bay Path for a total foundation enrollment of $2,180, 2,180 students. Look what's happening next year. And this is based on what's called the October 1st head counts. So the information for fiscal year 2019 is based on head counts in October 1st, 2017. Fiscal year 20 is on October 1st, 2018. Your 3 students are obviously graduating that are attending vocational school. They're seniors this year, which is good. You won't have that assessment. You won't have the transportation assessment. The students at Dudley Charlton Regional have decreased by 64 students. The student population there has dropped to 1,923. At the same time, the students attending Bay Path from Charlton have increased by 17 for a student swing of 50. So if you turn now to page 15, and this is where it comes in, the state has determined that Charlton's required contribution is $12,642,068. That's the minimum that you can fund education at. I'm sure you're well above that, especially with the assessment that you're giving Dudley and Charlton. But of this pie, because of the swing in student population, you're required to fund this, but a larger portion is coming to us because of the swing in population. If the population had stayed static, it still would have increased, but it wouldn't have increased in excess of 200,000. You know, in short, we're getting a bigger piece of the pie because of a swing in the student enrollment coming to Bay Path and the loss of students at Dudley Charlton. And again, I can go through all these numbers if you'd like, but it shows you why that minimum contribution went up so much. And I think at that, I'll end there.
There's a lot more that could be said, or a lot of questions, and, you know, we have a lovely restaurant Tuesday through Friday, 11 to 12:30. If you want to have a one-on-one, we're happy to host you and talk to you then, too. And it wouldn't be over the, it wouldn't be an ethics violation, in case you were worried about that. But, really, it is very complicated. We wanted to give you some highlights, and I called Robin immediately when Dean put all the numbers together, because, again, we know it's always difficult. You know, running a town is always financially difficult. We know that.
So, John, just a quick question. The name of the restaurant and what are the hours?
It's the Hilltop,
Okay,
Tuesday through Friday, 11 to 12:30. And very soon, for those who are in this, I just want to let you know, Fridays, we have wonderful fish,
okay,
okay?
excellent.
But come early, because on Thursdays and Fridays, I forget if it was a Thursday or Friday that Robin was there, it's packed, it's packed.
Everything that goes on up there is done very well. Thank you
Thank
very
you.
much, John. Thanks. So, with that,
All right.
think
And
we're all
if
set.
the Finance Committee needs to see us, we're happy to be back.
Okay, excellent. Thank you,
Thank you.
guys.
Thank you very much.
And-
Have a great evening.
Yep.
Sorry for.
Thanks.
Not a
Time.
problem. Okay.
We're back at the,
Do the Board
Yeah.
of Health, and then we'll do those.
Let's do, how quick, we can do the Old Home Day Committee appointments. Let's do the appointments and get.
that's like 30 seconds.
Hmm?
That's like 30 seconds.
Yeah, okay. Ms. Craver?
Yes, sir.
Attached are 4 talent bank forms from Lisa Thomas, Bo DeRosiers, Kathy
Kaczynski.
Kaczynski, and Richard Kaczynski, seeking to be appointed to the Old Home Day Committee. The Old Home Day Committee would recommend the board make the appointments.
Do I have a motion?
Mr. Chair,
Mr. Singer?
I would move that we appoint Lisa Thomas, Bo DeRosier, Kathy Kaczynski, and Richard Kaczynski to the Old Home Day Committee.
Do I have a second?
Second.
Any discussion? Hearing none, seeing none, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Excellent, thank you, and thank you very much for stepping forward. It's a wonderful committee. Okay,
Couldn't do it without him.
that's right. Ms. Craver?
Yes, sir. The Technology Committee is requesting the board appoint Jeff Searle to the committee as the IT technician for the town. It would be beneficial to have him on this committee, and I would recommend the board make the appointment.
Do I have a motion?
So moved.
Do I have a
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Any discussion? Hearing none, seeing none. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Okay. Excellent. Okay, Ms. Craver. Board of Health.
Yes.
I just saw
Are they
Jim.
still here? Here, you guys are here?
Where's Jim Philbrook? Do
Jim stepped out, again. Our office, let's see,
you want me to go get him?
at the board's December 18th meeting, during review of my town administrator report, where I stated that effective December 31st, 2018, tobacco products will only be sold to persons 21 and older. Chairman McGrath asked that there be, has been news on vaping. He asked if there was something that we could do so that everything is 21 years old or older. He also asked if the Board of Health had any funds that they could go into the schools and teach them of the dangers of this. We've invited the Board of Health to tonight's meeting, and they would also like to talk about littering in town. And I'll go check and see if,
And I see Ms. Walker here from the Board of Health. How are you, Kathleen?
I'm very good, thank you. We're
And-
grateful that you asked us here to talk about
And
vaping.
just a quick thing that came up that sort of prodded this was BayPath actually had to install special smoke detectors in men's and women's facilities to put the squash on vaping in those facilities. So it is a big problem. So, yeah, with that, Kathleen.
Thank you so much for having us here. It's a very serious concern, and we have all become quite educated. John Sanborn, our chairperson, could not be here tonight, but he did send me some words, and with your permission, I'd like to read them. Not sure what we can do at our level, but research shows that nicotine is one of the top 5 or 6 most addictive drugs on earth. I find it disheartening to learn that the U.S. Food and Drug Administration is taking a mostly hands-off approach regarding regulation and research on vaping. Some of these products contain the equivalent of a full pack of cigarettes. Clearly, the manufacturers of vaping products are targeting teens, and now they have millions of young users addicted to this nasty habit, spending an inordinate amount of their disposable income on this. So, and just for myself, initially when vaping came in, I think people thought, well, it would help you get off cigarettes. And certainly cigarettes are more dangerous than vaping. However, there's still nicotine there, and it's still addictive, and it's still a problem. And kids are doing it a lot. And so we're very concerned. And as you mentioned, John, earlier, this board did vote to raise the age to 21 to be able to buy cigarette products in town. So that's one small step. It's a complicated problem. I'd like to ask Matt to speak to it since he's here, and Jim Philbrook also.
Hi, Matt Gagnon, Board of Health. The board's been talking about it, and it's one of those things like, we don't know what we can do about it, other than the awareness factor of it, and, it probably comes down to the parenting and the education behind the whole thing, but, the board, if we thought there was something we could do to try and, help this awareness, we're certainly willing to look into it. We talked about, things on the websites and talking with the school departments and what their proactive approach is, but that's pretty much all we're trying to do, and just reach out to you guys and see if you had any thoughts and any concerns that we could try and help this problem, so.
To the chair.
Okay. Ms. Noble.
Jim? Hi. I had a conversation with Mr. Philbrook earlier today, and he told me that the schools are going to be conducting an education program around the vaping issue. And how many facilities in town sell vapes and the liquid?
4.
5? Have we let these 5 facilities know that it is 21 and over only?
Continuously.
And what is the penalty if they're caught selling to someone under the age of 21?
It's,
everyone. I'm Jim Philbrook, I'm the health director. What would be is a 21D fine. Under the law, they would be issued a 21D ticket. The first ticket would be $125, then $250, and subsequently, they would have to remove the product for 3 months from the store.
Okay, is there any penalty for the purchaser or for the parents of the purchaser?
Not within the law of the Board of Health, no.
Okay.
David?
What's the penalty for selling alcohol to a minor?
That doesn't fall under the realm of the Board of Health. I think,
No, I'm just asking what the penalty is.
I'm not sure
We
if there's
probably
any
have to ask
penalty
the
at all.
police chief.
Yeah, ask the chief.
Yeah.
But generally speaking, if someone is found to be selling alcohol to a minor in the town of Charlton, and I don't know about other places, I assume it's the same, not only are we looking at potential fines, but removal of their ability to sell the product for a minimum period of time immediately, not a third offense. And if they continue to have the offenses, they lose the license, they can no longer sell alcohol in town. I would think that this would be along the same, or should be along the same lines, where if you're continually violating our laws about who can and can't buy, that after a certain number of offenses, they would lose their ability, just like liquor. If you keep selling to minors, this should be no different. If you keep selling to minors and keep breaking our laws, you know, a couple $100 is nothing to a retailer.
I agree.
So if you want to have someone stop, you have to have something that has real teeth behind it. And to me, that teeth is, you sell to minors 3 times, you're no longer selling the products in Charlton.
Through the chair?
Yes, Noble.
Regarding selling alcohol to minors, that's a far more serious offense.
Depends on
Coming
who
under
you
the
ask.
True, coming under the criminal code. I'm wondering, though, when it comes to selling tobacco to minors, are the penalties comparable?
The penalties are set by the Mass Tobacco Coalition,
Okay.
and they set the parameters of how you can fine and when you can fine. I could issue a ticket, a 21D ticket. They could also appeal that ticket, and then you'd have to have your municipal hearing officer hear the ticket. And if they appeal the ticket after that, then it goes to Dudley Court, and you don't see any of the money after that. So you're right. The fine does not fit the crime, but I'm not sure about the alcohol. But as far as tobacco, I believe that Charlton does not sell to minors. We have stings that happen all the time, and it's very, very seldom that every once in a while someone will come in under the tobacco sting who's a very good student under the cooperation of the local enforcement, and to try and buy and purchase tobacco. And if they do, then the tobacco, they are, I am notified that there is a problem. They are notified inside. We look at the cameras and review who sold them. And ultimately, just it goes to termination, because they all have the machines that calculate what the age is. And that's why we went directly to 21 for all tobacco products and didn't progressively go for 19 and grandfather anyone that was 18 until they were 21, because it's too difficult to. And the stores actually themselves didn't want any part of that.
Kathleen?
Thank you. I think penalizing people for selling it is certainly one aspect of it, but I think to reach a broader audience and to really dig in there, we have to educate people. And I think that's the consensus that our board reached. And Jim has a story that's kind of scary, and I'd really like him to share it, because maybe it'll bring it more to the front.
I think what Kathleen's talking about, I worked for years on an ambulance, and they say it's not harmful, but this one person, which I will never mention names, had vaped all night, different types of vape. It inhibited his ability to breathe, and we had to ventilate him. So there are the side effects. You can overdose on this. So if you continually to use them, and the problem is you can conceal them, and that's I think what the schools are having. You can put it in your pocket, you can put it in your backpack, you can walk in. That's why Bay Path, and I just talked to John and Dean, and they just, they have these detectors that would immediately detect that they're doing something. And I think that's the thing, is they can conceal them. They look like a thumb drive. They're very small. I mean, I've taken pictures of all the stores of what they have, made sure they're concealed, that no one can steal them. Tobacco products cannot be within the reach of anyone that was a minor who can walk in and possibly steal them. So if you notice, they're all behind glass. You have to ask for them before you purchase them. So there are, I do continually monitor each store to make sure that the tobacco products are not within reach of someone underage.
And Kathleen, if I could.
Thank you. I just want to say, I think we have to try to reach the parents. I think, before this issue came out, maybe about a year ago, I honestly didn't think it was a big deal. And because I just hadn't run into it. And as I read more and more about it, I do think it's a big deal now. And I think every parent and grandparent in this town that educates themselves will then be more vigilant about keeping their children from it.
So I just have a couple of questions and probably take it back to the board and think about it is, do you need resources from the finance committee in your budget to do something about this, number one? Okay.
Maybe we'll come up with something.
But that's, no, that's how, I do take this very, very seriously. And the other thing, maybe, Jim, if you're talking with the schools, maybe talk to some of the oncology departments, either at UMass or Harrington or at St. Vincent's, about what do they have for literature and stuff that they can put out there, because that's basically the end result of what happens.
So just a thought, Mr. Chair.
Mr. Singh?
I don't know if any of you are familiar with Sheriff Evangelitis' face-to-face program. So he has a program, it's not smoking, but drug-related, but it's live presentations, slideshow based, and he brings it around to schools all over Worcester County. Maybe something can be created along those lines, a presentation, slides where it can be brought to the schools, they fill the auditorium, he gives a presentation. You could always, and to your point, maybe find partners willing to fund. You only have to create it once. Once you create it once, it's a presentation that anyone can give. The school can give it, Board of Health, anyone can give it, and it can go around every year from school to school to school in our district. And perhaps we can find a partner willing to pay for the creation of a slideshow, either someone you mentioned or even a business in town that may want to help fund that program.
Karen, did you have something?
Yes, thank you. I just want to point out what Kathleen mentioned, I think is absolutely right. It's important that we educate the parents. We really need a multi-pronged approach. We need to get to the parents, it's about prevention. If they're working with the schools or contacting the schools, maybe they must have programs in place, or young folks tend to listen to young folks. They don't want to listen to the older, what do we know? So really attacking this from all angles. I think another thing, I know our website is growing and we're kind of trying to utilize it more, having resources available that maybe we can get and share. Again, young people tend to look at social media, right, and get their information that way. Actually, I think anyone under 30, right, I don't know. But if we can have stuff or resources there, maybe from the Department of Public Health must have a lot of resources online that they could share. But Noreen said yes. So, yep, if you go to their website, we can access a lot of information there, but you're absolutely right. And just so people are aware, what are the flavors of the vaping? Who are they targeting? Can you tell us a little bit about what flavors? Like bubble gum or?
Bubble gum, cherry, there's so many flavors, and they are targeting their target audience. They're colorful. If you look at the display, it's colorful. It's bright, it's just overwhelming. And I think that some of them have too much, but there's no way to regulate that because they're allowed to sell it under, the state issues a tobacco license and the Board of Health gives them a permit to sell tobacco, they're allowed to sell those products. It is 21 now for all associated products, and I made that clear to everyone, not only with a letter, but I've been visiting them quite often, and it's just tough to police. Every once in a while you get a sting, and then they might not show up for 6 to 8 months later. I show up all the time. But it's not like on the weekends or nights I can be there. But I think that a place like Ted's does not participate in that type of product. There are only a few other stores, so 5 others, small little grocery stores, markets that do have these products. But they're well aware of the situation that I would be very aggressive with the backing of the board to do what we could to take away their license if we had to, but they won't sell to anyone. Their machines are coded, and they do ask for ID for all this stuff, so.
Excellent. Ms. Craver?
Yeah, when you're talking about resources, if you can find some, we have the cable. So if we can find any videos regarding this that could educate families, and just get it out in front of them. We can certainly run it on cable. So if you have any videos that you become aware of, can you let us know and send us the links so we can run them
Yeah.
on cable?
Could we also maybe put something on the website, just notifying businesses in town and community partners that perhaps might be interested in helping the Board of Health fund a project that could be brought to schools?
Okay.
And the last one, I just suggest maybe, Jim, you might want to talk with Dick Vaughn about maybe doing one of those half-hour shows and talk about, you know, what you've seen and what.
He's asked me continuously, yeah, so I'm
That'd be
sure he'd be
great.
happy to have me on, so.
Great.
So I was just thinking, I will contact Sheriff Evangelides and ask him about that program and see if we can get her on cable. And while Karen was talking, I thought to myself, well, why don't we go to the senior center and educate the grandparents, because they have so many grandchildren. And the grandparents, people my age, and I have 8, remember when we all started to smoke and all the cigarette ads and how we thought it was so cool, and then later on found out to our great dismay about the terrible damage that's done. And we didn't know that then, and little we heard of it, we didn't believe. So the grandparents have this experience of smoking cigarettes, and many of them do. And that's something that they might be able to not control the kids with, but at least influence them with their stories.
On to maybe the next subject, littering in town.
Littering,
And
yes.
Michelle Lilly was up during the open forum, and she brought, you know, her words of how it appears to have, you know, really increased in town and the amount of tonnage that we've been picking up. So with that segue.
Thank you.
Kathleen.
The littering has long been a problem, and we have addressed it. The recycling committee has addressed it, and I'd like Debbie Marquis to come up and mention a few things. And I also wanted to say that if you remember, we come back to you every year and ask you which road you're going to adopt, because our household hazardous, our Earth Festival is on April 27th, the last Saturday of the month. And we'll be asking everybody to adopt a road and clean up that road. And the more people that get involved in cleaning up the roads, the more distressed they become when they go back a week later and it's a mess again. So we need some permanent problems. The recycling committee has come up with some possible stopgap measures, but they're not much. And Matt, did you want to say something about that before Debbie comes up?
No, I did pledge personally, we were talking about a bulk item, a particular toilet on the corner of Hammond Hill up there in Stafford.
Colorful.
I went and picked up the toilet, got rid of it,
Thank you.
So,
Thank you for doing
if
that.
I, you know, it
Appreciate
was, just took care of it. And I also pledged, if there's a bulk item that for whatever reason, it seems to be there, call me. I will go take care of it personally, just if there's something that I can do that way.
So
Sure.
I just want to say
Okay.
something. I would like to know from Jerry, how many one-ton dump trucks you fill up with stuff every year, throughout the year?
Well, I'd probably give you a better number that you can visualize is, Casella donates 30-yard dumpsters to the town. The highway has one in their facility. Matt, I appreciate you picking up the toilet also, because if it wasn't you, it was gonna be the highway department. I don't think anybody realizes how much the highway department picks up.
I do.
We have like 4 pickups a year that pick up tires and rims, and there's a cost. I mean, there's a high cost, but never mind the personnel and the staff we need to use trucks to pick these things up. But rubbish that gets thrown out more than just a wrapper. My guys up all over town, all the time. So back to the point of the 30-yard dumpsters, I think, I just went through the record with my assistant a week ago. And I think Casella picks that dumpster up every 6 to 8 weeks, and it's stuffed with garbage that we pick up. So I realize this time of year when the snow lifts, it looks like that garbage just grew out through the winter. But we put fast food facilities to open, Ryan's, I shouldn't. Any facility that opens, that's where you start to see it. is a major problem, and the answer is, I don't know what you can do about it except just pick it up. I think it's a great program they're talking about, Adopt a Road. I'd adopt my own. I spend a lot of my own time just for physical fitness, picking up rubbish. It's amazing how a week, I'll have another bag full, just walking the road. I do back up. Anything that can be done with litter should be addressed.
Thanks, John. Deb?
So, thank you very much. We can all talk about why this is happening. We know that the bulk pickup around here has ended, and perhaps that's why that person felt the need to dispose of that toilet on Stafford. I don't know. I'm hoping it just accidentally fell out of the back of their truck, but I'm afraid that not. Probably not. So I know that during Earth Day, you have people adopt a road. Why do we only do that for Earth Day? Why can't Charlton do that all year round?
We could.
We certainly could adopt a road all year round. We could have the
I think
businesses
Jerry
take,
just said he was gonna adopt his road.
and we're gonna hold you to it.
And so, Deb, you can adopt a road.
I can adopt a road. We can all adopt a road, but the thing is, we have to make a concerted effort to do this, and we have to talk about it at each meeting until it becomes commonplace for everybody to adopt their road or a road. So it's not just on Earth Day. Perhaps it's done every quarter we go out and do this, and that maybe that's something the recycling committee can do. We can get the students involved. Jim Philbrook and I had a discussion about the sheriff's department. And do the inmates still go out and do that type of work? And they absolutely do. I know this from personal experience.
They come on Earth Day.
They can come more than on Earth Day. I'm sure there's days when they would like to get out of their surroundings and, you know, get out and do something and enjoy the fresh air, even if it is picking up garbage and helping the town. And we would do whatever it takes to encourage that. Because yes, when that snow melts, all that garbage will suddenly reappear quicker than those tulips and daffodils.
And Jim, I'm gonna give a few instances of what happens statewide. So first of all, Sheriff Evangelitis supplies 3 vans. The Mass DOT supplies him 2 to 3 vans. He puts between 4 and 6 inmates in them just about every day, and they go out on state roads. They go to the rest areas on Route 84. They go to the rest areas on 146. And then there's hot spots that there's just trash. You'll see them alongside the road picking the trash. So that's one of the reasons the sheriff is good enough to send them out here, when he can. But he does, the state gives him the vehicles to transport the people, so he does take, that does take precedent. The state also has a program called Adopt a Highway. And businesses adopt a highway. And they either they use the employees, or there's a company that comes through and they fill up the bags, and then the state picks the bags up. So that is a model program. There is a model for that program out there. The other thing is, and people are just slobs. And if anybody thinks that the roads in Charlton, are extremely bad, all you have to do is go over to the rest areas behind the turnpike, where the parking lot is, and Mass DOT spends boatloads of time and money cleaning them up every week, and you do not want to know what they find there. Jim called me up one day to say that there was half a load of potatoes over the back, and potatoes just attract vermin. We'd to send a backhoe and a grade all over there with dump trucks to pick this stuff up. And then not to talk about the people in hazmat suits, that have to go over there. It's, the public needs to change their routine, which is roll the window down and throw it out, okay? Dunkin' Donuts, coffee cups, cigarette butts, you name it, you find it out there. And I have personally been paid to pick that stuff up, okay? And it takes a lot of money and it takes a lot of time. One of the suggestions I have, if we have spots where people are throwing large items, couches, appliances, and other things, I'm sure that we have those. Let's find out where we can get some money for some game cameras. Let's start taking pictures of people doing this stuff. Let's hand it to the paper, saying, here's what we found, here's this, start embarrassing people, okay? That's the only thing you can do. I mean, you eat a McDonald's meal and you throw the whole bag and everything else out on a neighborhood street. It's happened in front of my house. I'm sure it's happened in front of your house. And yeah, nobody can get to your road. So, but anyway, that's my rant on that. I mean, we as taxpayers spend boatloads of money cleaning up after our fellow citizens.
Mr. Chair.
Mr. Singh.
I was just gonna say, now I can feel less embarrassed to make the suggestion of trail cameras. I was gonna suggest, there are certainly, I think, areas in town, Stafford Street's one. Jerry's probably very familiar with the road behind my house where there've been tires, computer monitors, an entire sofa. So they're right in the town line, they just dump it there and they keep going. Certain areas that we know seasonally, when the warm weather comes through spring and summer, where they're just dumping all those large items, I was gonna say the same thing. It's a minimal investment, some trail cameras, and then you've got the video evidence, make them pay, charge them, fine them.
Can I, excuse me, can I say something?
Absolutely.
Thank you. That works. The cameras work. Do we have hotspots in town?
Oh, yeah.
So, having worked for a couple of housing authorities, we would frequently get people coming to the housing authorities to use the dumpster, which I guess is better than not. But Jean smiles back there because she knows. They will come, they will dump their garbage in your dumpster, and we caught them on camera. We got license plates. We had the police go to their home and go, hey, here's your fine. We got your picture too. It works. It didn't happen a second time.
Ms. Craven and Jim.
I just want to add a couple of things. So one thing I think that needs to happen is that residents need to start having a behavior change and understand that Southbridge has closed, but Oxford has opened. So there is a large bulk drop-off in Oxford on Saturdays, correct?
Correct.
So, and they will also take the large bulk items for a cost. So they'll take some, they'll take your waste. So it's the same as the program in Southbridge. So they'll take your trash, I think it's 1 to 2 bags, and they'll also take, I think, 1 bulk item.
That's correct.
And then you can still pay to have the other bulk items.
Yes.
We've had a conversation with them, and I think I forwarded you their new flyer, that we can have 2 hazardous waste days with Southbridge, and we'll pay that. I think it's $30 a car, and you guys can take a look at whether or not it might make sense to use another company and do it ourselves. But we have that ability, so we need to get that information out to people so that they know, Southbridge is closed, well, I'm gonna put it in the woods, so that they do know that there's an alternative.
So that's the transfer station on 56, right?
Yes.
So we just need to get more information out, and we'll check and see if it's running on the web, and it should be running on cable too, this new information. The other piece is, it's not just Charlton. You know, this is a statewide issue. I sit on the Mass Municipal Association Board for their energy and environment, and we've been working on a resolution and legislation to try and get these large bulk producers to start being responsible for taking back the products and things that they're using, such as the mattresses. So when you buy a mattress, they have to take back the old one. And we're also working on some legislation about packaging. With all the packaging that's out there, there are some great models in other states where those companies are gonna have to pay to get rid of that stuff. So, it's a lot of solutions that we're trying to work on.
Jim?
I just know the one quick item that I would urge the selectmen to think about regulating is the clothing dumpsters such as Planet Aid Planet Aid is a reputable one, and they will clean it. I talked to Mr. Jackson, but the other ones that are next to them are for-profit. They are not a nonprofit. You think you're donating to someone so they could have free clothing, and it doesn't happen, and people use them as dumping sites. And I've been working, and Jerry's been very cooperative with helping me clean up some of them. They're actually on town property, some of these. They're too close to the road. But they're all over, you can see them, they offer you a couple $100 to park them in your parking lot, and they become dumping sites. And I've been working to clean those up, and I think the selectmen could actually regulate those, so you can put them in certain areas, because they're everywhere. And granted, Planet Aid does a good job, but still, the other ones that are next to them, some of them were just absolutely full of stuff for years, and I finally got them to get rid of them.
Can we check on that? Because I was fairly confident the town actually took an action on this years ago.
I didn't find.
Can we do some homework on that? I could have sworn we took an action on that years ago.
I think you had discussed it and decided not to charge the nonprofits. I'm not sure we did anything with the
I
profits.
thought we
but
were,
I'll take a look
I
at
thought we
it.
were relying on nonprofits, and I thought we were borrowing the profits because it's becoming an eyesore and they were going everywhere back then.
Kathleen?
So just two more things. I want to thank Michelle Lilly, who I was sorry I wasn't here for her talk, but she's been a great catalyst, sending letters to the Board of Health and the Board of Selectmen and getting our attention focused on this. And she just got mad. And so that's what we need. We need to all get mad. And I'd like to introduce you to Debbie Marquis. Debbie's been on the recycling committee for a number of years. And she does a lot of work on the committee, and she has initiated some of this, so you can show them the sign.
Hi, Debbie Marquis, Recycling Committee. We were happy to have Jerry and Highway last year put up signs for us that we bought, and we did buy some bigger ones this year, and we are hoping Highway will put up some more. You know, we keep trying to do everything we can to help the littering situation in Charlton. So this is two of them. They're metal, so they're pretty sturdy, and they're big. So we do also want to pick out good locations in Charlton to put the new signs.
And we can use more money for the signs, right?
Yes, we have money that we've raised selling our recycled products that you can see down the hall across from the Selectmen's office. When we sell those, we make money and we use it to buy things like signs, little waste baskets to put in your car, over the seat kind, or smaller ones. So we keep doing whatever we can to work on recycling, reusing, and clean up litter in Charlton, especially Earth Day. Earth Day is a big deal to us. And I think the Adopt a Road program is really good, because it's really just that people sign up for a road on Earth Day. They don't adopt it. And it bothers me that I adopt mine, but mine's not that long and it's a dead end. Yet I would like to see people, a family, adopt their road in a more formal sense. So.
And do we need more money for these signs?
No, but we do need some more ideas, I think, of things to use our money on. Right now, our $1,000 grant that we get, the small scales grant that we get from the state, we apply for it every year, and we've been getting it each year. We use that money to buy things that we raffle off, to buy kitchen compost buckets, items that we think will help people reuse and recycle. But I think when you mentioned the trail cameras, I thought, geez, I don't know how much they cost, but we are, again, our group is looking for ways to spend money to help encourage this too.
You can probably spend anywhere from $50 to $500 on a trail camera, but the 50 is a waste of your money because it won't work.
Oh, okay.
You're looking realistically for something that will be reliable. You're gonna start at $250.
But then we need to get it hooked up and then have it
Well,
back to the police department.
They're battery operated with a memory card, so someone has to just go by. If they find, when there's a couch there, you go by her so often and just either wipe the card, change the batteries, they last a long time, but you never have to pull the card unless there's a couch, then you can go pull the card out there. And
Through the chair, do we issue fines right now? I mean, I think that is more impactful. If someone knows if they get caught,
The
they're gonna get
police-
a fine, and it's a way to,
The police do have the ability to issue fines. It's not done because they have to catch them.
right, but having that on the sign is far more, I like the signs, don't get me wrong, but if
Right.
someone knows they're gonna get hit in the pocketbook if they're caught,
Mhm.
and then regarding the cameras, I think that's a great idea, but I don't know if there's a requirement that if we do something like that, that you have to say there's a camera up or not, because it's, I don't know.
I don't believe so.
No,
you In public places, I know you have to say this, you're being recorded or whatever, so it's just something to.
I do not believe so, but we can
Yeah.
run that by the chief. That is my.
But I suggest a hefty fine. People get hit, especially if they're caught, dropping off toilets. I mean,
I mean, one of our group, Mike Cunningham, who's not here tonight, he's a more vocal one of our members who really wants to see signs with fines on it, cameras. He's mentioned that to the chief of police in the past. He gets very upset at all the stuff that's thrown on Richardson Corner, which is the area he lives on. So I know he would very much like hearing what I'm hearing tonight, that could be a little more teeth into our littering initiative.
So if the recycling committee meets once a month on Thursday at the library at 5 o'clock, the second Thursday.
We'd love to have more members. There's basically 5 of us that are in it, and we'd love for anyone who would like to take part in this to join.
Can we get that on the website too?
So, on.
I would just wanted to point out to Karen's point about the signs, do you need to say there's a sign? A sign works just as well as the camera, whether the camera's there or not. So if we get smile, you're on camera signs, it may
know, right?
it may help.
And as does, and through the chair, if we can issue a fine, and I understand we don't have maybe enough police officers to do so, but if we have that capability, that the fine should be posted. It'll have a lot more teeth,
Sure.
in my opinion.
I have
And
plenty of places to buy signs that say that on them. We've looked at them, we just didn't know if it was, we were able to do that without any real enforcement from our group.
So, on a parting note here, if everybody would just look as they drive and see how many coffee cups they have.
Nip bottles.
Oh.
You won't believe,
Oh,
if you've picked up litter, you cannot believe how many nip bottles are.
All in one area, all the same flavor.
I believe they call them
John, where
nip
have you been?
nests.
Exactly, no, it's amazing, but just count the coffee cups that are out there. They're non-biodegradable. One of the major companies that supplies coffee to all of us, I'm sure, is supposedly going to
They go into paper.
go in the paper.
Yeah.
But we need to, if we're vocal about when we go and get our coffee, where's the paper cup?
Yeah.
Because there are
Or
other,
bring your own.
there are other companies that have changed from styrofoam cups a long time ago. And,
It's true.
and these are not biodegradable.
And through the chair, just one last note and question, actually. I know when I participated in Earth Day last year, we found a lot of needles. And I'm wondering if you're still finding them, and maybe we need to have, like, I don't know if we do,
Needle
but a place.
exchange,
Well,
yeah.
something where they can be deposited, but we found them like scattered all over, which is kind of scary.
Jim,
I've never seen.
you want to talk about that?
My office accepts needle exchange, and I'll give you a container, and you can take it, fill it, bring it back, and not get rid of it.
Thank you.
Great.
You
I
can
just,
bring it back, you're not gonna exchange it.
I just want to thank all of you for your very strong interest in both of these items. It's very encouraging and very much appreciated. And to tell you that candidates night this year will be April 29th at the library at 6:30. So you're all welcome.
Excellent. Thank you, Kathleen. Thanks, Matt. Thanks, Jim. Appreciate it. Okay. Ms. Craig. New business.
There's a special liquor license request. Attached are 3 requests from Mary Martha Guild for special alcohol beverage licenses to be used at St. Joseph's Church in the church hall for meat raffles on the following dates: April 13th from 5 to 11, September 29th from 5 to 11 p.m., and November 16th from 5 to 11 p.m. The Police Department, Fire Department, and Building Commissioner have all approved these requests. Per the board's policy, the licenses, if approved, should be issued for 2 additional days, which would allow delivery the day before the event and for pickup the day after the event, with no sales allowed for either. I would recommend the board approve the special licenses as requested, with the dates on the licenses to be April 12th through April 14th, September 8th through September 30th, and November 15th through November 17th. An update, Mrs. Taveri came in on February 11th and said they are canceling the request for September 29th. Therefore, I would recommend approving only the dates for April 13th and November 16th. So this actually was a memo that was held over from the last meeting,
All right.
so.
Do I have a motion?
Through the chair,
Ms. Noble?
I would make a motion that we would that we would approve the 2 requests, the special liquor license requests, as written, April 12th, 2019 through April 14th, 2019, and November 15th, 2019 through November 17th, 2019.
Okay, do I have a second?
Second.
Any discussion? Hearing none, seeing none, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Okay. Ms. Craver?
Yes, sir. The planning board has provided you with a copy of a revised definitive subdivision plan for 44 Old Worcester Road with a revision date of January 17th, 2019. A narrative containing the HydroCAD analysis and the operation and maintenance plan for the stormwater management system. The plan and narrative were submitted to the planning board by Meridian Associates on behalf of the applicant Valley Green Grow, requesting approval of a subdivision plan at 44 Old Worcester Road. The planning board has continued the public hearing on the application to its March 6th meeting. Originally, you were asked to review and make comments, if any, no later than Monday, February 18th. With the board canceling the meeting February 12th due to the weather, staff asked the planning board if you would be allowed to review the site plan at your meeting on February 19th and provide comments by the 20th, if you had any. We were told that comments could be provided up to their meeting on March 6th.
Okay. Do any members of the board have any questions or comments on the subdivision plan for Charlton Orchards?
Just through the chair, just to
Mhm.
clarify, because I know this is really confusing, this, the freeze on the land but not the use, is that how does this all work?
Yes.
Because I know you're a former planning board member, so you can explain it.
It's for the plan that they have put before the planning board for the physical division of the property. And Patsy, I'll defer to you. It's not about the use, it's about the division of the subdivision of the land with the access and the drainage, correct?
It's freezing, it's all about freezing that particular piece of land to what the zoning bylaws said at that date of the preliminary subdivision
Okay.
plan.
And the planning board's taking that up on March 6th at a and they continued the public hearing on it, correct? Okay,
And those comments will be sent directly to the planning board, not discussed here tonight.
correct.
If there's any comments.
Any comments, if you could let the town administrator or Mary know. I appreciate it. Thank you. Okay, Ms. Craver.
Yes, sir. The planning board has provided you with a copy of an application and plan submitted to them by the BSC Group on behalf of the owner, Masonic Home Incorporated, 88 Masonic Home Road, Charlton, Mass., requesting approval of a subdivision plan, definitive subdivision plan. The proposed subdivision consists of 2 lots and a cul-de-sac road 500 feet in length. The purpose of the plan is to create access and lot frontage for a future solar project. The applicant has requested several waivers of the planning board's regulations. The proposed subdivision way is located on Burlingame Road. The property consists of Assessor's Map 34B, Block A, Parcel 37.7A, and is zoned village. Comments were due February 19th, which is the night of the meeting. Should you have any comments, we have been told that we can let them know at tomorrow morning.
Thank you.
So, if anybody has any comments, if they could let the town administrator or Mary know. David? Future solar day.
Yeah.
Okay, Ms. Craven.
Yes, sir. Attached is a list of old IT assets that you are being asked to declare as surplus by Jeff Searle, our IT technician, and the Technology Committee. This equipment is outdated and no longer needed. I would recommend the board declare the list as surplus.
Through the chair.
Ms. Noble?
When we declare this as surplus, how is it disposed?
It depends, because of the value is below $50 for everything, we will do whatever we can to try and not incur a cost. Some of the things that we talked about is some of the DVRs may work, they just won't work for our purposes. To have a conversation with Elaine downstairs and see if maybe some seniors might want them. We've talked about doing an auction, but they really aren't worth anything.
No, I see, we have VCRs on here and floppy disks and lots of
They're
cables and
really old.
remotes and, so, now, when you say under 50, you mean that entire list?
As you can see, there's approximate value, and
Oh, I see,
generally,
it's kind of sideways here, I see,
sorry.
that's okay.
Um,
Okay,
So we will, like I said, we will do what we can, and if nothing else, we will contract to get them removed.
okay.
Yeah, some of these, like the monitors, should be under e-waste, but they're not, but you can't,
Yeah,
yeah, you can't throw these away.
we will have to dispose of them.
All right, you need a motion from us?
Yes, sir.
Could I have a motion, please, to declare it surplus?
So moved.
Second?
Second.
We have a motion and a second, any discussion? Hearing none, seeing none, all in favor?
Aye.
Thank you. That will free up much space. Next. Each year, the chairman of the board is tasked with preparing the Board of Selectmen's annual report for the previous year. The report is from January 1st to December 31st. Chairman McGrath has completed the 2018 annual town report. You are asked to review and approve or make recommended changes. What's the board's wishes?
We wish for a moment to read it.
Yeah, can we,
Yes.
Absolutely. We can hold it till next meeting.
can we do that?
Yeah, absolutely. If anybody sees anything that,
It's,
that either myself or Mary missed, because Mary was a great help with this, so.
It's a great help with a lot of
Next agenda.
things.
okay, thank you.
Mhm.
Next is old business. And and I just want to preface these. Because of the open meeting law training that we did, they had made some concerns about a town administrator's report or a planner's report or any kind of just report without listing what the things are in case that it might spur a discussion and and then break the open meeting law because we didn't put it down. So for this one, these are things that would have been on the town administrator's report. None of them require any action. I'll just go through them. And I'm gonna continue to have a conversation with council regarding whether or not I can put the town administrator report back, and either I will put all of these list of the subjects, or the board just really needs to know that it doesn't start a discussion. So if you want to have a discussion, then I would move it and put it on to the next meeting. But these are just informing you of things that have happened.
So, just in that, I believe we have to take a vote on the emergency account, right?
No, sir.
No? Okay.
Okay. All right, so the request for deficit spending, Highway Superintendent Foskett notified me as of February 1st that the snow and ice removal account is close to being exhausted. At this time, as of today, we've spent 94%. There's about $9,000 left in it. At the board's February 14th meeting, you authorized me to authorize deficit spending in the snow emergency account. I approved his request and declared a snow emergency so that we can deficit spend the snow and ice account, which will allow operations to continue. No action is needed by the board.
Tell Jerry there's no more snow coming.
You would like that.
You would be amazed at what he spends just for the ice part when it rains and then ices up. It's just as bad as snow removal. And we've had quite a bit of those events. Next is the Municipal Modernization Act. The Board of Selectmen authorized me to authorize nope, that's not the one I want. The next one would be the Tennessee pipe, which is 67. We have been notified by Tennessee Gas Pipeline LLC that their mowing activities will begin on or about January 22nd and should conclude within 2 months thereafter. This work is done by them in order to maintain a safe and efficient pipeline and provide continuous service to their end users, and all work will be done under the town's terms of the original right-of-way agreement. No action is needed for that either. Next. Hilka Settlement Agreement. A settlement agreement has been reached between the Town of Charlton and Hilka Construction Company. It is the town's intent to abide by the court's decision in both the Hilka appeal and the Doyle appeal, and to allow Hilka and Doyle to prosecute and defend those appeals respectively. The town will stay neutral in both of these appeals and will not actively participate therein, except the town will defend its employees, boards, and officials with respect to any claim of bad faith, illegality, performed by the ZBA or misconduct. The town will respond to any duly promulgated discovery request or trial subpoena by any private party, but may object to, move to squash, and/or seek a protective order from such discovery request or subpoena. Also, the town will not be foreclosed from asserting that any future expansion in the area of the use beyond the footprint of such use as of the date of the ZBA decision, or any material intensification or material alteration of the use constitutes an unlawful expansion requiring zoning relief. The executed settlement agreement is attached and no action is needed by the board. Petition by Jerry Russell to Public Records Division appealing the response of the Town of Charlton to request for public records. We received a determination from the Public Records Division regarding a petition they received from Gerard Russell appealing the town's response to a request for public records. This request was subject to 2 previous appeals. The record sought was a confidential privileged document. The Public Records Division states that the town has met its burden of specificity with holding a record under the attorney-client privilege and consider the administrative appeal closed. The town is not required to release the document and no action is needed by the board. That is what I have for old business at this time.
Committee reports?
Okay, I guess I'll go first.
Please.
Okay. The Marijuana Advisory Committee met this last time on February 5th, and I know Ms. Spiewak frequently asks for the minutes, so I made a point of getting them all for everybody before the meeting started, so if you don't mind passing them down, so. I'm sorry you didn't have them prior to the meeting beginning, I just got them today, but this way you'll all have a copy. The meeting was extraordinarily well-attended. We had Dennis Carlson there, who is the new fire inspector. I know everybody was hoping that he would be here tonight. He must have been taken away by other business there at the fire department. We're very pleased to have 2 other new members show up, Rick McManus, who is our 2nd citizen representative, and Jean Vincent, who was there representing Planning and Zoning Department. So thank you very much for coming to that meeting, Jean. Her participation and input was greatly appreciated. As you can see, we also had 3 businesses there. Valley Green Grow was represented, Green Gold Group, and Fourscore Holdings LLC. Each of them gave a brief update as to the status of their businesses and where they were. The one that, of course, is most near opening is Green Gold Group. There was an issue with a curb cut and the DOT, but they addressed it, and the details are in the minutes, and these minutes will be up on the website, I'm sure, very shortly. But a copy will be available at the Selectmen's office if anyone would like to see it. And does anybody have any questions for me?
Through the chair, just a quick one. First, thank you for bringing these along tonight.
Not a problem.
Just to clarify, draft minutes or approved minutes?
These are draft minutes. The committee has not seen them to approve them, but because they were so lengthy and you do ask for them, I wanted to make sure that you got a copy.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
All right. Karen, Solar Moratorium Review Committee, do we have anything?
I see Ms. Degnan is not here to report. She's the chairman. She left. I just want to commend her and the entire committee for really doing a wonderful job. We had thought the last meeting that we had would be the last meeting that would have. However, there is a need for one more additional meeting, and that will be posted soon. David, do you remember, is it February 26th? I'm doing this. He's going to check. All right. That really should be the last meeting. At our other previous meeting, what we did do was go line by line over the proposed regulations, I guess. And it was, Kurt was there, he was very helpful. We had an open forum so people could come and discuss any comments that they had, suggestions that they had. And we thank the people that did show up, but more to come.
Okay, excellent.
At some
Ms.
point,
Craig.
this would need to go to town council for review. Would you like town council to take a look at the draft that you have so far and make comments so that you'd be able to incorporate his comments into your last, which you may hope, the last meeting? Or would you prefer to wait until after that meeting?
Let me just back up 1 minute. Ms. Selectman Singer just did confirm the next meeting will be February 26th at 7:30. Right, I think it's going to be in this room, too. To answer your question, Ms. Craver, I believe we know it has to be vetted through town council, but I think that they wanted to hold off. I don't want to speak for the entire committee, but I think they wanted to wait till the next meeting.
Okay.
They are aware of the steps that need to be taken, and I think you had suggested a placeholder too on the warrant, so we're all set with that. And then, of course, the planning board's going to look at it and with our blessing. But, yeah.
Through the chair.
Ms. Noble.
I would just like to formally thank Selectwoman Spiewak and Selectman Singer for their participation. I know that this committee is wrapping up, but the work that you've done is invaluable. You've put so much time and effort into it, and I just want you to know how much it's appreciated. And it's too bad it's going to be ending, because I think the work you've done is really wonderful. So thank you for that.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Near and dear to your heart.
Years coming.
Ms. Craig?
The MMA annual conference, I think someone wanted to talk about that. That have been Karen?
I wasn't sure. So I know you had attended, and other employees at the town had attended the Mass Municipal Association Trade Show, an annual meeting. I just wanted to say I found it very beneficial, and mention to everyone that I did leave some documents in our read folder in the office. And I know Ms. Craver had shared something from, I think, KMP, the actual link to best practices. So it was, I found it very beneficial. My first time going, obviously, but it was definitely a good use of time.
Excellent, thanks, Karen. Okay. Ms. Craig?
Yes, sir. At the board's December 11th meeting, you reviewed the policy appointments by the Board of Selectmen, and I recommended adding language to include resignations as well. See attached. If the board approves the language, I would recommend you approve the policy with changes. If you'd like, I can just go through this memo and then we can go through one at a time?
Yeah.
Okay. At your January 15th meeting, while reviewing a list of policies that were reviewed at your meeting on December 11th for the correspondence policy, it stated that mail addressed to a specific select person shall be opened, date stamped, emailed, and copied directly to that person and filed in his or her mailbox. Ms. Spiewak stated that she was uncomfortable with the mail sent directly to a select person being opened. We were asked to put this policy on your agenda for the board to discuss. It should be noted that if mail is addressed to a select person marked confidential, it is not opened. This policy is to ensure that any mail sent directly to a select person is copied for the town file, as it is a public record. The board should review this policy and either accept it or amend it as you see fit. Anything marked confidential to a board member that relates to town business should be copied to the town administrator and, depending on content, be a public record. Ms. Speedwack had recommended the following policies for the board to review. Policy for the adoption and amendment of policies. One change would be to remove Board of Directors and replace with Board of Selectmen. Citizen relations and petitions. During the discussion, I had stated that this falls under the open forum. Board members were asked to review and mark any changes they see fit. We have not received any recommendations from board members. I've attached my recommended changes for consideration. And transparency in sitting of marijuana facilities in Charlton. It was recommended to remove the quotation marks from the policy. We were also asked to put together a public records request policy as followed by Mass General Law for the board in light of the open meeting law seminar held on February 5th. We are working on putting that together and we'll have it ready for the board's review at your next meeting. So if you go on to the next page, which is policies, appointments, resignations is added by the Board of Selectmen. And you will see the underlined is new language, which would add a new Section 5, which states resignation requests received for persons appointed by the Board of Selectmen will be put on the next available Selectmen's meeting for consideration. A copy of the resignation will be provided to the town clerk per Mass General Law, Chapter 41, Section 109. A copy of the resignation letter will also be forwarded to the committee being resigned from. The opening on the committee will be placed on the town's website and cable channel for 2 weeks to allow residents to submit their letter of interest. Any letters received will be forwarded to the committee for a recommendation. Upon acceptance of the resignation by the board, a letter thanking them for their service will be placed in the sign folder for signatures.
Okay.
What we are also asking is, on this one here, which I have some changes. After this was done, I was reading it, and number 3 doesn't quite make sense. And you'll see it says expiration date of appointments from May town meeting to June 30th. This will run the same time as fiscal year dates. This was in there before, no one picked it up, so I'm recommending that you eliminate the part that's in red struck through from May town meeting, so it'll say expiration date of appointments, or it's June 30th.
Okay.
Would you like to vote on that one first?
Please, we'll do them one at a time. So does anybody
this would be-
have, do we have a motion on this?
I would, through the chair,
Ms. Noble?
I would make a motion that we accept the policy as amended
Okay.
And
With
hand
the
it out.
draft,
and
yes.
with the draft that was just handed out.
Policy number 7.
Yeah, well, policy number 7.
Policy number 7.
No, I'll second.
Okay. We have a motion, a second. Is there any discussion? Hearing none, seeing none, all in favor?
Aye.
Next one?
The next page, the board may wish to title this policy correspondence/email policy and add the following. So you'd add BOS, correspondence and email. And then there is a portion at the bottom that says, emails received or responded to by board members regarding town business should be copied to the town administrator for the town files for public record keeping. We're finding after the training that would be helpful, especially with public records issues.
Mr. Singer?
So, is the implication that every single email we receive, we're gonna have to forward and send, every single one?
If Robin's not copied on it, I would say yes.
And it may be when you just reply back, you just include,
In some cases,
Mine
they
or
can be a lot of
Mary's, so.
emails. They already have access to our emails anyway, on request.
And then my question would be, why?
before.
Why, what's the need to do that?
It fits in with my question as to you already have access to our emails on request for any public record search anyway.
These would also, well, you also get emails on your home address too, so that would be up to you.
People generally, thankfully, leave me alone at home.
And I don't, yeah, I
Then you're
don't,
an anomaly, because we do have emails that have been CC'd to selectmen's home addresses.
Yeah, but if they do that, it's usually also sent to your
It is,
selectmen's
yeah,
address.
there are two accounts. Belt and suspenders.
Yeah, we're just trying to find a way to capture them, that's all. And reduce the amount of time you're gonna have to look.
I think it's more burdensome, actually. I mean, again, I don't particularly see the need for that. I mean, do you, I've asked before, I mean, so once you get them, I think it's more important, and I've said this before, that we all are aware of what's going on, what we're responding to, rather than it all just go to the town administrator. I would like to see issues now. Again, if someone brings an issue to our attention or whatever, it should be sent or included in the packet. And we can't offer an opinion on it, but just to say, here's what was, like, for instance, someone reached out to me once about one of those drop-off bins. So I think that's important that you know, my peers know about that, because maybe someone else is reaching out to you about it as well, or another different person. So I think it's more, we tend to operate in silos. I guess I don't see the benefit of just the town administrator knowing. I would like all of us to know what's going on. What, you know, what's.
So how do we do that?
Again, I go back to every single email. It should be at our discretion if it's an issue. I mean, so you write thank you to someone because they sent you an email saying, thank you for doing this, and I'm gonna forward that to the town administrator. What's the point? You know, it's just, that doesn't make a lot of sense. And I've looked at a lot of policies, and I've not seen that anywhere else. You know, I've been doing a lot of policy research, so.
And I am definitely not trying to get your emails. It's a burden on me to be able to have to get these, but if,
Do you think, Karen, and this is just you know, do you think that what we do now captures everything for the open meeting law? I personally think we do.
Sorry.
But well, yes, and we're obligated if there is a request, or as a courtesy, if another person, a peer, asks for something, share it. I mean, to put this in and it seems burdensome, and it doesn't seem, I don't see that it's necessary.
Mr. Chair, so I agree with both of you. I think it's burdensome and necessary, and I think we already do what's required. And if there is ever a request, we all do a search, and if we find anything that everyone wasn't already copied on, we forward that over. But for the most part, everyone's already copied on 99.9% of the emails anyway.
so am I hearing that you would like the last sentence struck?
Yes.
That's the way I would say it. Would you want to vote on it with the last item struck, or would you want to wait till the next meeting to bring it back up?
I would love to get this done.
Okay. Can I have a motion then?
Mr. Chair,
Mr. Singer?
so I would move to approve the change with the last line being struck from the changes.
Okay. Do I have a second?
Do we have a second? I don't want to
No,
talk
I
yet.
need a second. I think both of you are reading.
I made the motion, I'm done reading it.
This is the old one. That's the old one.
Did anybody second it?
No one seconded
No.
it.
That's what I'm waiting for. Is there a glitch that you would like to wait and go over this again?
Can I talk?
Somebody second it for
Yeah,
purpose of
second it for
discussion.
just for
Second it for
discussion.
discussion purposes.
Okay, go ahead, Karen.
Has this changed since last time? Because I thought there was something in here about putting it in a read folder first, our book.
My
Am I
understanding
missing
is this was the last edits and versions that you had.
So that's general.
Second, we have, any other, do we have any discussion on it, or?
So we basically removed the read that was in there before. That's what I had questions, so, yeah, I'm good with it.
Okay, all right. We have a motion and a second. Is there any discussion, any further discussion? Hearing none, seeing none, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Okay. Okay.
Next, knowing the idea of this policy, and with that in mind, staff did research to find more comprehensive policy, which explains what the first and second reading are for clarification. So this is the Board of Selectmen policy for adoption and amendment of policies. So if you want to just take a look at that. If you'd like me to read it out loud, I'd be glad to.
Through the chair,
Go ahead.
I would recommend, this has been changed substantially since what we had voted on or whatever. Could we table this till our next
Sure.
meeting? Is
No
everyone,
problem.
if everyone's okay with that, I don't
Yeah,
want to,
that's fine.
just because there's a lot to read.
This one's a little lengthy.
Yeah, thank you.
Policy on policy.
Yes, and ironically, this is so that everybody understands what the policy is that we're voting on. We're gonna read it like 3 times. Now we're gonna read this one like 10 times.
So this would qualify as the first reading?
Yes, yes, it would.
Yes, it would. First iteration. Okay. Ms. Brady.
Okay, and the next one is during the discussion of this policy at your December 11th meeting, I had recommended changing this from citizen petitions to citizen communication open forum. Below are my recommendations. It would be called citizen communication open forum. And we've adjusted some things, added open forum, added a placement on the agenda, and added a different place for petitions.
Through the chair,
Ms. Spiewak.
I did read through this one. There was one change that I wanted to make, and I thought we had agreed upon, those of us who had met that day, to go over policies. It is halfway down the page, under placement on agenda, starts with prior to a regular meeting. The second one where it says, so let me read it. Prior to a regular meeting and individual citizens, should be an individual citizen or group of citizens may request a formal appearance before the board by contacting, you crossed off a member of the board and replaced it with the chairman of the board. And I'm I'd like to see it go back to a member of the board, because I'm fairly certain that was what we all agreed upon.
Yeah,
Or the town administrator's office stating precisely, and again, but that would be the change I would recommend there.
Well, Janet, I think the discussion was if someone contacted a member of the board, they would suggest that they contact our office.
I think generally speaking, the chairman sets the agenda.
Well, somebody's gonna have to tell staff that it needs to be put on, needs to be put on there, so. yeah.
Right, but maybe I'm not reading this correctly. If someone reaches out to me to request something be put on here, I would turn around and tell.
Right, so,
tell you.
yeah.
But it doesn't read, I want the residents to know that they can contact a member rather than they have to go to the
Yeah,
chairman.
so you wanna take the strike-through out.
Right.
Yeah, that's
They
fine.
can contact any member of the
Any
board.
member or the
The
chairman.
chairman.
Or the chair.
Does
Or
that
the
sound
town
right?
Or the
administrator.
town administrator.
Yeah.
Well, the chair is a member of the board, so that's kind of being redundant. Basically what we had.
So
And
revert that
and
back.
where it says that, if I just, I'm sorry, where it says Town Administrator's Office, should that say the Board of Selectmen's office?
I would suggest the town administrator's office, since we're doing the day-to-day,
Okay,
because
all right,
it's clear for people.
okay.
Anybody have any other questions or comments on this? or- What are the, David?
I understand the addition of, or the underlying, no selectmen should be acting on their own without approval of the board. Why have we struck out that selectmen shall be answered promptly by the chair or direction of the chair, town administrator?
Where are you,
Wouldn't we
David?
still want the selectmen to?
4-7?
Sorry.
Yeah, wouldn't we still want the selectmen to be receive responses promptly?
I had another language change to that section as well.
We had sent these out on Thursday, hoping we could get information back from people.
I know.
Perhaps what's better is if we go ahead and do table it, have you bring your recommendations, and we will, one,
Okay.
take a look back at the tape, because I believe that all the changes that we have here came from
Mhm.
the meeting. And then if you have recommendations, what I can do is just make some changes and show what it is everyone wants to do, because
Okay.
this may start
So-
getting confusing.
So what we'll do is if everybody could take these and just all of them, okay?
Mhm.
Just reread them. Please give any changes or suggested changes to the town administrator, so that we can incorporate them, or we'll do strike, we will show on the adjusted document what was changed again. And if you want, we can note who asked for the changes, if you want that. But we'll move on from this item till next meeting.
And I will also make sure we pull the minutes, so that we can be clear on what.
But, and through the chair, I understand you want to pull the minutes, but changes have been made since, and I think we need to keep up with the
That's
recent changes, and I really would like, in case I forget, I made all kinds of notes, but the recommendation that I made to be included, I think that's very important, about the striking
Yeah,
out.
and that's what I mean, I want to know who recommended it, just so we can, just initials are fine, just so we know where, if we have a question, who we should ask. Okay?
Yep.
Okay. Ms. Craver, student select person's report.
I don't have the suit.
No, I
We're
know
missing
you
a
don't,
policy.
but Anya's enjoying her vacation.
And then that's it.
Through the chair, we're missing a policy. We did the transparency and the citing of
No, I
marijuana.
put them all on hold.
You put that one on hold?
Yeah, yeah,
That's only
until-
got one little thing. It's got taking out parentheses, or,
Okay.
Actually, I do have a question. Did you put that one on hold?
I did, but I thought we were just jumping over all of them, but if the
Oh,
board.
I know, I missed it, I'm sorry.
I'd like that.
So you were thinking of pulling that up. I actually could use some
Direction.
direction on this
Feel
because
free.
of Fourscore. So for the policy, transparency of sitting on, in the sitting of marijuana facilities in Charlton, you have changed from approval to execution. And that was the only change that I'm aware of. But I do want to ask you, you've got in here, the Board of Selectmen to encourage more open and transparent discussions between marijuana facility developers, municipal officials, local residents shall hold a public meeting of the sitting of marijuana facilities prior to the execution of any host agreement to allow sufficient time for discussion. this meeting shall be separate from a regular selectmen's meeting. I would like you to reconsider whether or not you want to have that part, this meeting shall be separate from a regular selectmen's meeting. The reason I'm asking you if you want to think back about that, all of your public hearings and your discussions happen a lot here. So as an example, Fourscore has reached out to me, so in anticipation that you were going to approve this policy today, I wasn't comfortable putting them on the agenda for starting the process, knowing that this was something that you were moving forward to. So today, if you approve this, then tomorrow what I will do is take their agreement, their host agreement and their development agreement, and put it on the web. That'll start their 14 days. At your next meeting, you would be able to hold your hearing and meeting.
That would be
And
next
then
week, right?
after that, it would be 7 days after that,
7 days after
that
that,
you
okay.
could take it up the business. Otherwise, what you're gonna need to do for this one is find another meeting date.
Mr. Chair,
Mr. Singh.
so I mean, my feelings are actually along the same lines of what Ms. Craver just pointed out. With everything that's in this policy all being left intact, what does it matter if it's a separate night or that night, as long as everything else is followed? To be able to have that hearing like any other hearing, also for efficiency purposes, when everyone is together and we know we have everybody, especially during winter months or summer vacations, when it can be tough to get an entire board together. If everything else in this policy is met, then what is the real harm in making sure we have the ability to have that meeting even on a selectmen's meeting night when everyone's together anyway?
Okay.
So through the chair, as the author of this, this policy, it would defeat the purpose of the intent, because it wouldn't, I know we've had Fourscore and have done some public meetings and so forth, but we really need to set aside enough time for the public and everyone to discuss their comments. I mean, I think we need to learn some lessons from has taken place in the past. So I really am, I couldn't support it. That's what I'm going to say. We really, it defeats the purpose. You need the time. And the host agreement, and tell me, I didn't change. Who put in approval, execution? I guess I'm getting at, we should have this before it's signed. The point is, so you get the input, so you can change the host agreement if needed, depending on what we find out at the public hearing, the public forum.
I just don't think that precludes that. I think we've had many meetings here that have gone on, some nights very, very long. And if it's an agenda item, whether it's 30 minutes or goes 3 hours, if that's what the people are here for to talk, I do not understand why having it on a selectmen's meeting night, period, would preclude that. And I think giving us the ability to have it on a selectmen's meeting night means we can have it on a selectmen's meeting night or an off night, but it gives us more flexibility. Everything else is met. The 14 days, the 7 days, everything is met. But the ability to hold it on a selectmen's meeting night does not exclude anything else. It doesn't preclude any of the other
But
items.
it's about having a separate meeting, so you're providing enough time.
You're still providing the same amount of time. So
Do
the
you know how
same,
long do you
the
remember
7
how
days-
long the one?
right, but the point is, the 7 days and the 14 days are irrelevant, whether it's on a selectmen's meeting night or another night. If the days are met, then you have the ability to have it on a selectmen's night or a non-selectmen's night. You're still meeting your 7 days notice, you're still meeting your 14 days prior. You're just giving the board more flexibility as to when we can have the meeting, but everything else is being met. It doesn't prevent us from doing anything, from holding a hearing.
Can I interrupt for a second, Ms. Craver?
Perhaps, I see what you're getting, because if you find a packed room and there's a lot of comment, then it might be disruptive to trying to do it within a selectmen's meeting. If you take that portion out that requires it to be a different, then you have the ability to do, as Mr. Singer said, either. So you could open it, if it's not that big of a deal and it seems to go smoothly, that's fine. Or you can stop it and then set it for another night, and everyone's here and they can all know what night you're setting it. So you would just have that flexibility.
Right, we're not removing any
So four-star,
requirements.
I'm imagining you could probably do that at your next meeting without having to have a whole nother meeting. If someone came in a new area and there was a lot of concern about it, then you would open the meeting here, but if there wasn't going to be enough time, and I've seen you take an hour on a discussion, and we can schedule that, then you could always stop the discussion and go to the following week, which you've done quite often, if there's something that, like a workshop.
I personally don't care one way or the other, so that's my 2 cents.
So long as we can ensure that we will allow enough time and not rush it. And I go back to my question, can you give me the interpretation of using the word execution rather than approval? And I want to go back to citing marijuana facilities prior to,
Execution
Before
is
we-
signing it,
before we,
actually signing it.
all right. Approval,
So
signing.
nothing would be signed.
Or before we approve it. You follow what I'm saying? Before
what
we
you're saying.
approve it. How about, can we put prior to the approval and execution to cover both?
So add approval
I
and
know it's kind of a little
execution.
redundant.
No,
but-
that's fine. We just wanted to make sure that it was the actual signing, that nothing happened. So we can add both back in.
Yeah,
Right, but just to cover, we can approve and not sign.
Yes.
That's-
Yes, I mean, you can certainly approve an agreement but not sign it. It's not executed until you put your John Hancock on there, so
Right.
this is just for legal purposes.
Right.
But
I'm not, I want to make it clear,
Mhm.
the meeting should happen before we approve
Absolutely.
or sign.
Yes, or
Okay.
execute.
Oh, yeah, I'm sorry, before we
Yes.
approve or execute.
I think
right.
everybody's on the same.
And if I might just put in my 2 cents.
Mhm.
We all have our Board of Selectmen meetings on our calendars, and people know well in advance when we're gonna be meeting, which Tuesday it's gonna be. And my concern is, and this may be silly, but if we schedule a separate meeting just for this type of, I don't wanna say public hearing, but public meeting, people might get confused. It's not on their regular night. I thought they met on, the second and fourth Tuesday of the month, or whatever it is. We meet every other Tuesday, and, I want to make it as clear as possible. And sure, if we have to, if it becomes cumbersome and we have to continue it to our next selectmen's meeting or set another date, that's fine. But this allows us the flexibility to do so, because people are used to our schedule.
I'm just smiling, because if anyone really knows and can tell us exactly when we meet, other than us, I think that would be a wonderful thing. But anyway, I understand, and I'm fine with that, so long as we can give them enough time and we wouldn't rush them.
And I think
And
the way
maybe
you've written this is excellent. You've allowed the 7 days, you've allowed the 14 days. This allows the public plenty of time to have input and be part of the process.
I think you also, I know, I share your concern. I think we could assure people that have ample time to talk, we wouldn't be rushing people.
Right.
And I think the other way, we could potentially limit availability of having an entire Board of Selectmen. Because sometimes the more meetings we have, the harder it's people to get here with all the other commitments.
Mhm.
So, having said all that, what are the changes that we're making and to this? So the approval, so where it says prior to, it's going to be prior to the approval and execution, okay? And then what about the meetings? How's that going to, what are the changes there?
Through the chair,
Ms. Noble.
I would propose that we strike the following sentence. To allow sufficient time for discussion, this meeting shall be separate from a regular selectmen's meeting. And replace it with, to allow sufficient time for discussion, this meeting shall be part of the regular selectmen's meeting, and this meeting can be continued on, or shall be this meeting shall be continued on.
So, this is my.
I'm gonna have to rework that.
Yeah, so what I suggest on this one, okay, is just what we did with the last one, but it's good to have a discussion about it. Please forward the changes that we town administrator and the staff so that we can get them on there, okay? And then we will put this on the next meeting agenda to vote on.
So, I would like to put the host agreement for Fourscore on the website tomorrow. So this policy is not completed, so I would look for direction from you, whether you would want me to wait until 2 weeks, until after you finalize the policy, or act as if now.
I would suggest either wait 2 weeks or follow the suggested policy, just with the exception of excluding a selectmen's meeting night. Since I think we know.
So I would just open it for your next.
Yeah, I think it's pretty clear that the board wants to move in this direction. We just want to make sure that the wording is clear and does ensure that even though we have this flexibility, there will always be an allowance for time for anyone who wants to speak.
Okay. Does everybody agree on that?
Yeah.
Yep.
Okay. All right, with that. Other business unknown at the time of posting? Nothing? Okay. Next meeting announcement, regular Board of Selectmen's meeting, February 26, 2019, at 6:30 PM here in the Selectmen's meeting room. And then special Selectmen's meeting, March 20th, 2019, 6:30 PM at the Charlton Middle School Library. And I believe that's on the Dudley Charlton budget.
Yes, that will be our joint meeting with Dudley Charlton School, Regional School District, and the town of Dudley will also be participating, as well as the Finance Committee and Board of Selectmen from the other towns and ours.
Okay, Ms. Noble?
Through the chair, you agreed to continue open forum at the end of the meeting if anyone else wanted to speak?
But when I asked, nobody else would want to speak. so
Okay.
Which should be covered.
Okay.
Okay. All right, with that, do I have a motion?
To
Dave?
adjourn?
Sure.
Okay, second.
Sorry, who's helping me?
Is that-
Yes.
Second.
Yeah.
Okay. We have a motion and a second to adjourn. Any discussion? Hearing none, seeing none. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.